The large metal doors of the Galactic Council chamber slammed shut with a sound that echoed through the ancient hall. Jack Murphy, the human ambassador, had just walked out for the last time. Though no one knew it yet, his face was red with anger, his fists clenched at his sides. 20 years as Earth's voice in galactic politics had ended in this moment. "They never respected us," he said to his aide, Greg Wilson, as they walked quickly down the shining hallway. "Not once in all these years." Greg nodded, trying to keep up with Murphy's fast steps. "Sir, should we request another meeting? Maybe in a few days when things cool down." Murphy stopped walking. He looked out the large window at the stars. Earth was out there somewhere, a tiny blue dot among millions. "No," he said finally. "I'm done asking for respect we'll never get." The final meeting had been worse than all others before it. The council, led by the tall, blue-skinned Velmorians, had voted to limit human space expansion to only 5 star systems. 5 systems for a growing population of billions, while the Velnorians controlled over 50. Concerns about unchecked aggression, they had called it. The real reason was fear. Humans had grown too fast, learned too much. In just 200 years since joining the galactic community, they had caught up to races that had been traveling space for thousands of years. Back on the human ship, Murphy called Earth. President Linda Carter's face appeared on the screen, looking tired. "They did it, Madam President. They passed the restriction." Carter sighed. "I was afraid of that." "And your response?" "I walked out. My last words were, 'We won't be where we're not wanted.'" There was a long silence. Then Carter spoke in a calm, clear voice. "It's time for Plan Exodus." Within 24 hours, the news spread across human space. All human representatives were ordered to return home immediately. Scientists working on joint projects packed up their labs. Military ships pulled out of shared defense patrols. Business people sold their off-world companies at low prices just to leave quickly. On the massive space station that served as the council headquarters, humans started disappearing. One by one, they closed their shops, ended their contracts, and boarded ships home. The council was surprised. They had expected anger, maybe threats. Instead, they got silence and empty spaces where humans had been. Admiral Susan Garcia commanded the U.S. Defiance, the largest human military ship and pride of the fleet. For 10 years, it had been parked at the most honored spot at Council headquarters, showing human commitment to galactic peace. "Prepare for departure," she ordered her crew. "Ma'am," said her first officer, "the Council is requesting our flight plan." Garcia looked at him with cold eyes. "Tell them we're going home. That's all they need to know." As the massive ship pulled away from the station, many council races washed with worry. Not the Velmorians, though. They were happy to see the humans leave. What none of them understood was that humans weren't retreating. They weren't giving up. They had been planning this for years, waiting for the final insult that would give them reason to break free. "Send the signal," President Carter said from the White House on Earth. All across human space, hidden factories came to life. Secret shipyards started building at full speed. Military bases that had been quiet for years suddenly buzzed with activity. Human space became closed to all visitors. The border patrols turned away every ship, no matter how friendly the race had been in the past. The message was always the same. Human space is closed until further notice. On Velmorian Prime, the home world of the Council's leading race, High Commander Zex laughed at reports of human activity. "Let them hide behind our borders," he told his advisors. "Without Council trade, they'll come begging to return in a few months." How wrong he was. The humans had no plans to return. They had much bigger ideas. Ideas that would soon shake the galaxy to its core. As Jack Murphy's ship approached Earth, he looked at the blue planet growing larger in the view screen. "You know," he said to Greg, "they think they've contained us. They have no idea what they've actually done." "And what's that, sir?" Greg asked. Murphy smiled for the first time in days. "They've set us free." 2 months passed, and the galaxy felt strange without humans. The busy trading ports that once buzzed with human merchants now had empty spots. The bars and meeting places seemed quieter without human laughter and loud voices. The Galactic Council met every week, trying to understand what was happening in human space. Their spies and scanning ships brought back strange reports. Huge energy readings from all human worlds, said the Zykrathi spymaster, showing pictures on the big screen. They are building something big, very big. The pictures showed bright lights on the dark sides of human planets. New space stations were growing around Earth, Mars, and other human worlds. Ships moved in organized patterns, like worker bees around a hive. What are they building? Asked High Commander Zex, the Velmorian leader. No one had an answer. The Council sent messages to human space. They offered to talk, to change the five-system rule, to make new trade deals. All messages came back with the same answer. Message received. No response at this time. Smaller alien races began to worry. The Brantari, small green beings who had always liked humans, sent their own ships to the edge of human space. Please, their message said, we were friends. Talk to us. The human patrol ships simply sent them away, politely but firmly. On the planet Zykrath, food prices went up. Human farms had grown much of the grain that fed their people. Now those shipments had stopped. We need to find new food sources, the Zykrathi leader told his people. The humans are not coming back soon. Some aliens who had human friends tried to call them. Most calls went unanswered. Those humans who did answer were brief and gave no information. Talia Nelson, who had worked with the Meraxian aliens for 15 years, appeared once on a galactic news show. Her face was serious. You wanted us contained, she said in a short message. You got what you wanted. What happens in our territory is no longer your concern. Then she, too, went silent. On Earth, things were very different. The planet was busy with activity and purpose. In the newly built United Earth Command Center, President Laura Morgan spoke to representatives from all human colonies. For too long, we've allowed ourselves to be treated as the galaxy's dangerous children, she said to the large room filled with leaders. No more. Operation Exodus begins today. The room erupted in cheers and applause. Sam Roberts, the head of human science, showed the next slides. The gateway construction is on schedule. The first colony ships are ready. Phase 1 can begin in 3 weeks. Outside the command center, regular humans went about their lives with new energy. Schools taught children about the new future. Factories worked day and night. Everyone had jobs and purpose. Do you think the aliens know what we're doing? Asked Bill Cooper, a factory worker, as he ate lunch with his friend. No way, said his friend Diane. They never bothered to understand us. That's why we're leaving. At the edge of the solar system, Admiral Susan Garcia watched her fleet grow larger every day. New ships arrived from hidden building sites, each one better than the Council had ever seen. Status report, she ordered each morning. Border is secure, Admiral, her officers always replied. No alien ships have crossed the line. Garcia nodded with satisfaction. And the void entity? Still moving, Admiral. Still heading toward Council space. Garcia looked at the star map showing the mysterious void entity, a dark cloud of unknown energy that had appeared years ago. It was the one threat that scared all races. Humans had found a way to fight it, but the Council had ignored their warnings. They'll notice it soon enough, she said quietly. Back in Council space, the effects of human absence grew worse. Ships that needed human-designed parts couldn't fly. Entertainment systems played the same old shows. Food supplies ran low on some worlds. In a private meeting room, 5 council members met in secret. We made a mistake, said the Brantari leader. We need the humans. They'll come back, said High Commander Zex confidently. They need us more than we need them. As he spoke, another report came in. 3 more human colony worlds had gone dark. All communication stopped. The humans weren't coming back. They were leaving completely. And soon, the galaxy would understand just how big a mistake they had made. The Proxima trading station was the busiest market in 3 star systems. Aliens from 20 different worlds came to buy, sell, and trade goods from across the galaxy. Humans had built the station 30 years ago and still made up about half of its population. Until they didn't. Station manager Grell, a 4-armed Brantary, noticed something strange when he woke up. The station felt quiet. Too quiet. "Computer, what is the current station population?" he asked. "Current population, 4,212, the computer replied. Grell blinked his large eyes in confusion. "That can't be right. Yesterday we had 8,450 people on board. Current population, 4,212, the computer repeated. Grell rushed out of his quarters. The halls were half empty. He ran to the human living section and found every door standing open. Every room was empty. Clean, orderly, but completely empty. All personal items were gone. Not a single human remained on the entire station. Then the environmental systems started to act up. The air felt too warm, then too cold. Lights flickered. What's happening? Grell asked the chief engineer, a Zekrethi named Hall. The humans ran the environmental systems, Tal said, looking worried. They had special programs that made everything work well. Those programs are gone. The humans took them when they left. Similar reports came in from everywhere. A research station studying a gas giant lost all its human scientists overnight. The galaxy's biggest hospital suddenly had no human doctors or nurses. The joint military base at Sigma 9 found its human soldiers gone and their advanced weapons missing. Even stranger were the personal stories. Krill, a Velnorian trader, found his human business partner's office cleaned out. On his desk was an envelope with exactly what the human owed him, plus a note. It was good working with you. Goodbye. Marriages between humans and aliens, rare but existing, suddenly ended as human spouses left. They all said the same thing. I have to go. My people need me. They left divorce papers and fair property settlements. The council called an emergency meeting. High Commander Zex looked less confident now. This is beyond a protest, he said to the gathered leaders. This is a coordinated action. Every human in council space disappeared on the same day, at the same time. How is that possible? Asked the Meraxian delegate. There must have been millions of them spread across thousands of worlds. No one had an answer. Dr. Eric Powell, a human who had spent 30 years studying alien cultures, released a video message from human space. He was the first human to explain anything since the withdrawal began. The Council has always misunderstood human psychology, Powell said, looking directly at the camera. We don't seek domination. We seek respect. Denied that, we simply take our ball and go home. The council members watched the message in silence. What does he mean by take our ball and go home? Asked a confused Zykrathi. It's a human saying, explained the Brantary leader. From their childhood games, if other children are mean or unfair, a child might take their toy and leave the game. High Commander Zex laughed. That's ridiculous. They can't just leave galactic society. They need us. They need our trade routes, our resources. But the evidence suggested otherwise. Humans were not just surviving without council contact. They were busy with something big. The effects spread quickly. Food prices on many worlds doubled, then tripled. Entertainment systems showed only old programs. Ship parts became hard to find. Most concerning of all, reports of pirate attacks increased in sectors where human patrol ships used to keep the peace. The final blow came when Council Security Director Kelly Matthews, the last human in a high council position, submitted her resignation. As she left the council chamber, she turned and spoke one last time. You never realized how much you relied on us until we were gone. The door closed behind her, and the council members looked at each other in growing alarm. Outside the window of the chamber, They could see the empty dock where the U.S. Defiance used to be, the ship whose weapons had once saved them from the first Void Entity attack. And now the Void Entity was moving again, coming closer, without humans to help stop it. 3 months after the humans left, real problems began to spread across the galaxy. What started as small inconveniences grew into serious troubles. On Veros Prime, a farming world, people lined up for food. The planet had grown only luxury crops for many years, trading them for basic food from human farms. Now those farms sent nothing. "My children are hungry," shouted a mother in the crowd. "Where is the food the government promised?" The local leaders had no good answers. They had believed food would come from other worlds, but those worlds had their own hungry people to feed. In the great banks of the Lyridian people, who handled money for half the galaxy, workers stared at failing computer screens. The complex systems that tracked and moved money between worlds were breaking down. "Call the human programmers," demanded the bank president. "We can't," said his assistant. "They're gone." And they took their special code with them. The Maraxian shipyards, once the busiest in the galaxy, sat half empty. Without human metal experts, they couldn't make the strongest parts for new ships. Orders piled up with no way to fill them. All these problems hurt trade. Fewer ships carried fewer goods between planets. Prices went up. People got angry. But economic troubles were not the worst problem. Safety became a serious concern in many places. The Krell Dominion, a group of aggressive aliens who had fought the Council for centuries, began to test the borders. Their ships pushed into areas they had avoided when human military ships patrolled there. "They're seeing if we'll stop them," warned a Zykrathi commander. "And I don't have enough ships to do it." Pirates attacked trade ships more often. Small colonies on outer worlds called for help that never came. The Council military struggled to cover all the areas human ships once protected. In a secret council meeting, the military leaders shared the worst news. "The Void Entity has changed course," said Admiral Zor, showing a map of star systems. "It's moving faster now, and directly toward Council space." The room went silent. The Void Entity was a strange dark cloud in space that destroyed everything it touched. It had appeared 10 years ago. Only the human fleet, with special weapons they called quantum disruptors, had been able to push it back. Have we asked the humans for help with this?" asked the Brantari representative. High Commander Zex looked angry. "We don't need human help. Our scientists have been studying their weapons. We can build our own quantum disruptors." But the science team leader shook his head. "The human designs are very complex. We're missing key parts of how they work. Our versions are not ready, and they may not be strong enough." On many worlds, people began to talk about the humans with new respect and fear. Stories spread about why they left and what they were doing now. "I heard they found a wormhole to another galaxy," said a Zykrathi worker at a bar. "No, they're building a super weapon to take over when we're weak," argued another. "You're both wrong," said a third. "They're preparing for something worse than the Void Entity, something they warned the Council about, but no one listened. The Council tried to calm these fears with public messages saying everything was under control, but fewer people believed them each day. In her office on the Council station, Overseer Lena of the Brantari stared at reports of failing systems, food shortages, and rising danger. On her desk sat a small gift from Kelly Matthews, the human who had warned them of what was coming. It was a simple hourglass, an old human timekeeping device. All the sand had run to the bottom. Time was running out for the Council to solve these problems alone, and the humans showed no signs of coming back to help. 6 months after humans left Council space, the Velnorian Deep Space Scanning Station picked up something unusual. Huge objects were moving at the edge of human territory. "What am I looking at?" asked Station Chief Fax, staring at the screen. "Sir, these are the largest ships we've ever seen," said the scanner operator. "Each one is. It's hard to believe. Each one is the size of a small moon." The images showed massive vessels, round and self-contained, moving in a steady line away from human space. They weren't heading toward Council territory. They were going in the opposite direction, toward the unexplored regions beyond the Perseus arm of the galaxy. The Council called an emergency meeting when they saw the images. Even High Commander Zex looked worried now. "How many people could such ships carry?" asked the Meraxian delegate. "Millions per ship," answered the science advisor. "And our scans show at least 50 such vessels." "They're leaving," whispered the Brantary leader. "Not just the Council. They're leaving the galaxy." As the Council tried to understand what was happening, humans finally broke their silence. Ambassador Peter Collins, who had once been a regular face at Council meetings, appeared in a galaxy-wide broadcast. "People of the Galactic Council," he said, his face serious but calm. "Humanity has found something remarkable beyond known space. We invited the Council to join our expedition 3 times over the past decade. 3 times we were rebuffed, our findings dismissed as fabrications." The Council members looked at each other in confusion. No one remembered these invitations. Collins continued, "So we will go alone to meet what awaits us. We leave behind a galaxy that never truly accepted us, to find our true place in the universe." The broadcast showed images that stunned everyone watching. The human ships were heading toward a strange area of space that glowed with unusual energy. According to ancient Velmorian texts, this region was called the Cradle of Creation, a mythical place where new stars were born. But humans had found something more there. After the broadcast, Council scientists rushed to check old records. They found 3 formal requests from human scientists over the past 10 years, asking for joint research missions to the Perseus arm edge. Each time, the Council Science Board had rejected the requests, calling them wasteful and based on flawed data. No one had taken the humans seriously. Now those same humans were leaving with their families, their technology, and their knowledge, taking everything to this mysterious place they had discovered. "We must stop them," said High Commander Zex. "Whatever they found might be dangerous or valuable." "How do you suggest we stop ships that size?" asked Admiral Zor. "Our entire fleet couldn't match one of those vessels." The Brantary delegation called for an immediate vote. Their leaders stood and spoke with unusual force for the normally quiet species. "We have made a terrible mistake," she said. "Humans were never the threat we feared. They were explorers, builders, protectors. And we pushed them away because we were afraid of their growth. Now they leave when we need them most." The vote passed easily. The Council would send a ship after the humans to see what they had found and to ask them to share their discovery. On Earth, only small groups of humans remained. Most were elderly people who didn't want to leave their home world, or volunteers who stayed behind to maintain basic contact with the Council. In the old White House building, now mostly empty, Governor Liz Morris looked out at the quiet streets of Washington. "Do you think they'll follow us?" asked her assistant. "Eventually," she said, "when they realize what's out there. The question is whether they'll understand why we left, or if they'll just want what we found." High above Earth, the last of the great colony ships prepared to depart. On the side of each massive vessel was the new symbol of humanity, Earth surrounded by stars, with a bright doorway opening before it. Humanity had found a door, and they had chosen to walk through it. The Council ship Stellar Envoy was built in just 2 weeks, the fastest construction project in galactic history. Every race sent their best engineers to help, working day and night. The ship wasn't pretty, but it was fast. "We need to catch the human fleet before they go beyond our tracking range," said Captain Lorix, a veteran Psychrathi explorer. His crew was made up of members from all Council races, scientists, diplomats, and military personnel. But they had a problem. No one knew the safe route through the dangerous space between the galaxy's arms. Strange energy storms and gravity wells made normal travel impossible there. "We need a human guide," said Science Officer Trell, "someone who knows the path their ships are taking." Finding such a guide wasn't easy. Most humans had left. Those who stayed behind refused to help. Finally, they found Captain Alan Foster, a human mercenary who flew cargo ships on the outer edges of the galaxy. For a high price, he agreed to guide the stellar envoy. "You're all idiots," Foster told the council crew when he came aboard. "You had the greatest allies in the galaxy, and you treated them like children." "We're trying to fix that mistake," Captain Lorix replied. "Will you help us or not?" Foster looked around at the desperate faces of the crew. "I'll get you there, but don't expect a warm welcome when we find them." The journey was difficult. The stellar envoy followed the trail of the massive human colony ships, jumping through dangerous regions of space. Twice they nearly crashed into invisible gravity wells. Once a strange energy storm almost fried their engines. Each time, Foster's knowledge saved them. "How do you know these routes?" asked Navigator Qual. Foster laughed. "We've been mapping this region for 20 years. The council thought we were building weapons when we asked for research permits. We were actually planning our exit." After 3 weeks of hard travel, they found something surprising. Small metal objects floating in space at regular intervals. "What are these?" asked Captain Lorix. Foster checked the readings. Navigation beacons. The humans left them to mark safe paths. He looked surprised. They didn't have to do that. "Why would they help others follow them if they wanted to leave us behind?" asked Trell. "Because humans never wanted to be enemies," Foster explained. They just wanted respect as equals. These beacons show they still care what happens to the galaxy, even if they're leaving it. Following the beacons made the journey easier. As they traveled, the council crew learned more about the humans from Foster. "Is it true all humans are leaving your home world?" asked a young Brantary scientist. Foster nodded. "Most have already gone. Just the elderly who didn't want to leave home, and some volunteers staying behind to maintain basic communication." "But why leave everything?" the Brantary asked. "Your history, your home." "Because what we found is worth it," Foster said, but wouldn't explain more. Meanwhile, back in council space, the situation grew worse. The void entity had destroyed 3 outer colony worlds. Council ships tried to stop it using copies of human weapons, but they weren't strong enough. On Earth, the final preparations continued. Governor Liz Morris spoke to the last group of humans preparing to leave. "Our job is almost done," she told them. "The doorway is stable. The new worlds are being prepared. Soon, we can all go through." One young aide asked, "What about the council ship following us?" Morris smiled. "We left them the breadcrumbs. If they truly want to understand, they'll find us. If they just want to take what we've discovered, they'll fail." High above, the last great colony ships waited, their engines glowing with power unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. On their sides, the new human symbol shone brightly. Earth surrounded by stars, with a doorway opening ahead. The door to a new beginning was almost ready. After 5 weeks of difficult travel, the council ship Stellar Envoy finally caught up with the human fleet. What they saw left them speechless. The massive human ships had stopped at the edge of known space. Before them stretched something impossible, a huge ring structure, bigger than any space station ever built. Inside the ring was a swirling blue light that seemed to bend space itself. "What is that?" whispered Captain Lorix, staring at the main screen. "That," said Alan Foster with pride in his voice, "is the gateway. Humanity's greatest achievement." The council representatives watched as one of the huge colony ships slowly moved toward the ring. When it reached the center, blue energy wrapped around it. In a flash of light, the ship vanished. "Where did it go?" asked Science Officer Trell in shock. "To our new home," Foster replied. The Stellar Envoy received a message from the human command ship Unity. "Council vessel, you are permitted to approach. Admiral Rodriguez will receive your representatives." When the council delegation boarded the Unity, they found it surprisingly simple inside. Every space was designed for function, not comfort. Admiral Frank Rodriguez met them in a plain room with just a table and chairs. You followed us a long way, the Admiral said. Why? Captain Lorix stepped forward. We need to understand what you found, and why you're leaving when the galaxy needs you most. Rodriguez activated a hologram projector on the table. It showed a beautiful spiral galaxy, similar to their own Milky Way. 20 years ago, our deep space probes detected a naturally occurring wormhole in this region, he explained. It took us 5 years to confirm where it led, another 5 to stabilize it, and the last 10 to build the gateway you see now. The hologram changed to show planets on the other side of the wormhole. This is where the gateway leads, a habitable galaxy twice the size of our own. Millions of life-supporting planets. No advanced civilizations. No one to tell us we're expanding too quickly or taking up too much space. The council members stared in amazement. A whole new galaxy, untouched and ready for colonization. You discovered this 20 years ago, asked the Brantary representative. Why didn't you tell the council? Rodriguez's face hardened. We did. 3 times we submitted official reports to the Council Science Board. 3 times they were rejected as impossible and fabricated. No one even bothered to check our data. The council members looked at each other in shame. Their fear and distrust of humans had led them to ignore humanity's greatest discovery. The void entity is attacking our worlds, said the Zygrathi military officer. Will you help us fight it before you leave? Your quantum weapons are the only effective defense. Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. We left detailed plans for effective quantum disruptors at Earth Central Command. Governor Morris has instructions to share them with any council representative who asks properly. The weapons will work if built correctly. And then you'll all be gone, asked Lorix. Leaving our galaxy forever. Not forever, Rodriguez said. You may send observers through the gateway. See what we're building on the other side. A civilization based on cooperation, not competition. If the Council desires diplomatic relations with the United Human Systems in our new home, we will consider it. But we will not be returning to take our old place at your table. As the Council delegation prepared to leave, Ambassador Olivia White, once a junior diplomat at Council meetings, now a senior leader, delivered a final message. We leave behind a troubled galaxy to build something better. Our door remains open to those who wish to join us as equals. We hope someday you'll understand what you lost when you pushed us away. The delegation watched as another massive colony ship entered the gateway and vanished in blue light. They understood now, humans had never been the threat. They had been explorers, finding a path to a new frontier when the old one became too small. And as the last great human ships disappeared through the shimmering gateway, the council races were left to face their challenges alone, finally understanding that humans had never been the enemy. They had been the shield, the innovators, the ones who saw further than anyone else. The door to the new galaxy remained open, a standing invitation to follow, if the council could learn to see humans as the partners they had always wanted to be.